Imagine a time long before electricity. We travel back to the 14th century, to a small village in the heart of India. Here, life is tethered to the grand celestial rhythm of the sun and the moon. Nature is the ultimate guide. The day begins with the sun's first rays and ends as it dips below the horizon. The sun had begun its slow descent, painting the vast sky in brilliant strokes. The sounds of the village were changing too, replaced by the gentle lowing of cattle. This was the sacred hour of transition. It was a time of winding down, of returning to the hearth, and of preparing for the darkness. The villagers did not fight the darkness, they lived in harmony with it. This evening was a gentle surrender to the coming peace of the night. From the sprawling fields, a solitary figure made his way home. This was Raghuvir, a farmer, his skin, the color of the earth, darkened by the sun. He carried his wooden plow, his partner in coaxing life from the soil. The lines around his eyes told tales of seasons passing. Raghuvir was a man of the land, understanding its language. He spent long hours tending to his crops. His work was a sacred duty. The field was his legacy, his identity, and his entire world. As he walked, the village came into focus. The familiar sights and sounds washed over him. These were the simple moments that wove the fabric of his existence. His heart felt a quiet sense of contentment in this life of purpose. He was a caretaker, a provider, and a link in tradition. As he neared his home, the aroma of warm bread reached him, a welcoming embrace that promised rest and the comfort of loved ones. The day's work was done. Raghuvir's simple mud home was a fortress of peace. Its thick mud walls kept the inside cool, and the thatched roof kept the rains out. A worn wooden door served as the entrance. Inside, the humble space was filled with the warmth of family life. A small clay stove glowed in the corner, filling the air with comforting smells. His wife, Parvati, greeted him with a soft smile, her presence filling the home with grace. She handed Raghuvir water, a simple gesture of care. This small house was more than just a shelter, it was the center of Raghuvir's universe, rich in connection and love. The simple evening meal was a satisfying affair. Bajra roti and sarson ka saag were shared with quiet gratitude. After the meal, preparations for sleep began. Raghuvir stepped outside, looking up at the emerging stars and slender crescent moon. Returning inside, his charpai bed was ready. He lay down, weariness washing over him. Sleep arrived naturally in the absolute darkness. Soon, Raghuvir surrendered to a deep, dreamless slumber, the first of 2 nightly rests. Before sleep, a final ritual. Raghuvir walked to his courtyard where a large earthen pot stood. He dipped a brass mug into it. He poured the water over his feet, washing away the day's toil, leaving the worries of the fields behind. He then washed his hands and face. As he splashed the water, he looked up at the darkening sky. The stars were now more numerous. This was a form of meditation, a way to connect with the universe. With his feet still damp, he walked back inside the hut. A sense of profound tranquility settled over the small home. Now was the time for the inner world, the world of family, rest, and dreams. Inside the hut, the chulha was breathing its last for the day. The flames had died down, leaving embers. They cast a gentle glow upon Raghuvir and Parvati. It was a symbol of nourishment and the warmth of the family hearth. Parvati hummed a soft lullaby, a tune passed down through generations. It mingled with the children's soft breathing. Raghuvir watched her, affection filling his heart. Parvati handed him warm mustard oil. The darkness promised security and rest. The family was cocooned within their earthen home. All that remained was the quiet anticipation of sleep, a surrender to the natural rhythm. As Raghuvir lay on his cot, his senses, now heightened by the darkness, began to tune into the subtle symphony of the night. The village was not entirely silent. It was alive with a different set of sounds than those of the daytime. The boisterous noise of human activity had been replaced by a more ancient and gentle chorus. From a distance, he could hear the lonely, mournful howl of a jackal, a sound that was as familiar to him as the crowing of the rooster. It was a reminder of the wildness that lay just beyond the boundaries of their small, ordered world, a wildness that the night temporarily reclaimed. Closer by, the world was filled with the tiny, persistent sounds of nature settling down. The chirping of crickets was a constant, rhythmic undercurrent, a sound so ubiquitous that it was almost a form of silence itself. He could hear the soft rustle of leaves as a gentle breeze stirred the large neem tree outside his hut. A gecko, hunting for insects on the outer wall, made a series of soft clicking sounds. These noises were not disturbances, they were the lullaby of the rural night, a testament to the life that thrived in the darkness. They were comforting, familiar sounds that assured him that all was as it should be. From the neighboring huts, he could occasionally hear the muffled sounds of other families settling in. A soft cough from one house, the faint cry of a baby quickly soothed back to sleep in another. He heard the gentle clinking of a cow's bell as it shifted in its sleep in the shed next door. These small sounds connected him to his community, reminding him that he was not alone. They were all part of this shared experience, this collective surrender to the night. In the darkness, the entire village became one large, breathing entity, each family a vital cell in its body, all following the same ancient rhythm of rest. This soundscape was the very definition of peace for Raghuvir. His mind, unburdened by the complex anxieties of a modern world, found tranquility in these simple, organic noises. There was no jarring hum of machinery, no distant wail of a siren, no artificial light to disrupt the deep, profound darkness. His world was in harmony with its surroundings. The sounds of the night were not an intrusion upon his peace but an integral part of it. They were the gentle whispers of the earth, tucking him into his first sleep, assuring him that the cycle of life continued even as he rested. The charpai, Raghuvir's bed, was a marvel of simple, functional design. The frame was made of sturdy, lightweight wood, joined together without metal. Ropes made from coconut coir were woven tightly, creating a firm sleeping surface. Its open-weave design allowed cool air to circulate freely. The ropes had a slight give, cradling his tired limbs. It kept the neck and spine in natural alignment. It promised a deep and restorative slumber. This woven cradle, built from earth-made materials, was his personal island of peace. It was an invitation to surrender to the nightly kingdom of rest. The final barrier between wakefulness and sleep began to dissolve. Raghuvir's breathing deepened, slowing into a steady, rhythmic cadence that matched the peaceful pulse of the night. The thoughts that had been drifting through his mind, scattered images of his fields, the feel of the plow in his hands, the taste of his evening meal, began to lose their sharp edges. They became soft, hazy, and distant, like clouds moving slowly across the moon. His body, heavy with the satisfying fatigue of a day well spent, felt as if it were sinking gently into the woven ropes of the charpai, becoming one with the bed and the earth below. The darkness behind his closed eyelids was complete and profound. In this pre-industrial world, darkness was a tangible presence, a thick, comforting blanket that enveloped everything. There was no ambient light pollution from street lamps or glowing screens to interfere with his body's natural production of melatonin, the hormone of sleep. His circadian rhythm was perfectly synchronized with the planet's cycle of light and dark. When the sun set and darkness fell, his body knew instinctively that it was time to rest. This effortless transition was a gift of a life lived in tune with nature's most fundamental clock. He was not fighting sleep or trying to force it. He was simply allowing it to happen. It was a gentle surrender, a letting go of the day. The sounds of the village, the chirping crickets and the rustling leaves, faded from his conscious hearing, becoming part of the background tapestry of his subconscious mind. The boundary between himself and the world blurred. He was no longer Raghuvir the farmer, the husband, the father. He was simply a being at rest, his consciousness receding like the tide going out from the shore, leaving behind a state of pure, uncomplicated peace. Within moments he was fully submerged in the deep waters of his first sleep. This was not a light nap but a profound state of oblivion, a period of intense physical and mental recuperation. 4 hours had passed. His eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the darkness. He felt rested and alert. The sounds of the night had changed. A deeper silence had settled over the village. This was the true heart of the night, a time that felt ancient. This period of wakefulness was a time for introspection and reflection. It was a segmented journey divided into two distinct parts. This quiet, wakeful hour was a gift. Raghuvir sat up on his charpai. He looked towards his sleeping family. His children were curled up beside their mother. Seeing them so peaceful filled Raghuvir's heart with love. He was a guardian, a watchful presence. He rose, his bare feet making no sound. Every object was a familiar shadow. This was his sanctuary. Without a lamp, he navigated the room. He reached for the door latch. Reassured, he gently lifted it. He was stepping into the sleeping village. Raghuvir stepped outside, the cool night air a relief after the day's heat. The moon, now a brilliant half-disk, bathed the village in silver, transforming the familiar into something magical. Stars glittered above, and the world seemed hushed. painted in shades of black and silver. Raghuvir paused, absorbing the beauty and peace, feeling deeply connected to the silent, sleeping village. The quiet was not emptiness, but a presence, a secret shared between him and the night. He left his hut behind, stepping into the vast, open temple of the moonlit world. The village, usually bustling, was now a realm of stillness under the moon. Raghuvir walked barefoot along the dew-kissed path, passing silent huts and sleeping animals. The moonlight stripped away the day's clutter, revealing the extraordinary in the ordinary. A clay pot became sculpture, a fence post a sentinel. Each step felt like a pilgrimage into tranquility. His mind, free from daily worries, opened to the beauty of his world at rest. In this sacred midnight, he rediscovered hidden layers of reality. Even the most familiar places held new worlds if one knew when to look. Raghuvir's walk had purpose. He was heading to the village temple, the heart of their community. The path rose gently, giving him a moonlit view of the sleeping village below. A warm glow flickered from the temple, a beacon in the night. He felt a surge of belonging, knowing others were drawn here too. At the temple steps he paused, brushing dust from his feet in respect. The air was thick with incense and marigold, the oil lamps flamed dancing in the shadows. He had arrived at his destination, a pocket of warmth in the cool night. Inside the temple, Raghuvir joined 3 other men, Shankar, Govind and Hari, sitting in silent companionship. They greeted him with nods, no words needed. The small oil lamp was their focus, its steady flame a symbol of shared faith. In this sacred space worries faded, replaced by a sense of unity. Their gathering wasn't about ritual but about presence, drawing strength from each other and the silence. 4 souls awake while the world slept, reaffirming their bonds. In the quiet they found solace and community. The only sound was the oil lamp's soft sputter until Shankar spoke. "The moon is bright tonight. The soil will drink the dew well." Govind nodded. The air is still, a good sign for rain. Their conversation was a gentle exchange of observations, rooted in the rhythms of earth and sky. Hari mentioned jackals crying from the east, a sign, he said, that the weather would hold. This was their science, nature's signs, and ancestral wisdom. Each man added to the tapestry of shared knowledge. Their words were a quiet prayer, an acknowledgement of forces greater than themselves. In the temple's cool sanctum, their dialogue deepened their connection to land and life. Talk turned to crops. Govind worried about yellowing millet leaves. Shankar advised neem water at dawn. Hari feared his thriving mustard might flood if the stream rose. They discussed digging a trench. Raghuvir shared hopes for his lentil plot, seeking timely rain and richer soil. Each concern was met with empathy and practical advice. Speaking their worries aloud, the burdens felt lighter, shared among friends. This midnight council was for reflection and support, not action. In the temple's stillness, they planned, hoped, and drew comfort from facing uncertainty together. As talk of crops subsided, the mood shifted. Shankar, the elder, spoke of his grandfather, a farmer on this land generations ago. He recounted a story of a great drought. His grandfather had dug a well, guided by faith, and found water when hope seemed lost. The men were captivated by Shankar's story in the quiet night. These stories were a vital part of their identity, moral lessons of resilience. Hari shared a tale about the river goddess. These stories connected them to their ancestors and the spiritual world. This oral tradition was their library, their history, how they understood their place in time. After the stories faded back into a comfortable silence, Govind stretched his legs and sighed contentedly. "It is a good time, this," he said softly, looking around at his companions. "The body is rested from the first sleep, and the mind is clear. The worries of tomorrow have not yet begun." He was giving voice to what they all felt, putting a name to the unique quality of this midnight wakefulness. It was a special, protected time, a serene island between the 2 deep oceans of slumber. There was no need to rush, no work demanding their immediate attention. It was an hour that belonged only to them. Shankar nodded sagely, his eyes twinkling in the lamplight. "Our fathers and their fathers knew the wisdom of the night's rhythm," he explained, his voice taking on a gentle, teaching tone. "The first sleep is for the body. It mends the tired muscles and heals the day's strains. But this time, this watch is for the soul." He explained that in this clarity, prayers were more focused, thoughts were deeper, and the heart was more open. It was a time to connect with the gods, with each other, and with one's own innermost self, free from the distractions and demands of the daylight world. Raghuvir reflected on this. He had never consciously thought about it in such detail, but he knew Shankar's words were true. During the day, his mind was a whirlwind of activity, constantly calculating, planning, and worrying. But here, in the quiet of the watch, his thoughts flowed more like a calm, deep river. He could see his life with a clearer perspective. He realized that this period of wakefulness was not wasted time, it was essential. It was the time when he processed his experiences, found solutions to his problems, and reconnected with his purpose. It was as vital to his well-being as the sleep that surrounded it. This shared understanding of the two sleeps was a fundamental, unspoken truth of their culture. It was not something they were taught from a book, it was a rhythm they lived, a pattern they inherited. They knew instinctively that the second sleep, which would come later, would be different. Lighter, often filled with dreams and designed to carry them gently towards the dawn. This entire nightly structure was perfectly designed for their lives, providing time for physical rest, spiritual reflection, and mental recuperation. It was a testament to a life lived in harmony with the body's natural cycles, a wisdom that the modern world would one day forget. As the hour of their watch began to draw to a close, a different kind of communication filled the small temple. Without any signal, Shankar began to hum a low, devotional melody. It was a bhajan, a hymn in praise of the deity whose image sat in the temple's inner sanctum. The tune was ancient and simple, yet it carried a profound depth of emotion. One by one the other men joined in, their voices blending with Shankar's. They did not sing loudly, but chanted in a soft, resonant undertone, a sound that seemed to make the very air in the temple vibrate with a sacred energy. The words of the hymn spoke of gratitude and surrender. They thanked the divine for the rest of the first sleep, for the coolness of the night, and for the life-giving earth. They asked for protection for their families, for strength for the coming day's labor, and for wisdom to live in accordance with Dharma, the righteous path. The lyrics were simple, the language that of the common folk, but the feeling behind them was powerful and sincere. Their four voices, united in song, became a single prayer rising up into the moonlit sky, a testament to their collective faith. Raghuvir closed his eyes as he sang, the familiar words flowing from him effortlessly. He felt a deep sense of peace settle over him, a feeling of being connected to something much larger than himself. The song was a cleansing ritual for the spirit. It washed away the lingering anxieties about his crops and replaced them with a sense of trust and acceptance. He placed his hopes and fears into the care of the divine, lightening his own mental load. The act of singing together in the sacred darkness was a powerful form of communal meditation, aligning their hearts and minds in a shared purpose of devotion. When the last notes of the bhajan faded, an even deeper silence descended upon the temple. It was a silence no longer empty, but filled with the resonance of their prayer. The small flame of the diya seemed to burn a little brighter, its golden light a comforting affirmation of their faith. They had tended to their earthly concerns through conversation, connected with their past through stories, and now they had nourished their souls through song. Their time in the watch was complete. They had used this precious interlude to rebalance their inner worlds, preparing them for the final phase of the night's journey. A subtle shift in the air signaled that their time together was ending. Perhaps it was a change in the quality of the darkness, a faint hint that the deepest part of the night was passing. Or perhaps it was an internal clock, shared by all four men, telling them it was time to seek their second sleep. Shankar, the elder, was the first to move. He slowly got to his feet, his joints creaking softly. He offered a final silent prayer to the deity, his palms pressed together in a gesture of reverence. The others followed his lead, rising from the cool stone floor, stretching their limbs. There were no formal goodbyes. Their parting was as quiet and understated as their meeting. A simple nod, a shared glance, a whispered Rama Rama. These were enough to convey their farewells and good wishes for the remainder of the night. Harry carefully cupped his hands around the lamp's flame and blew it out, plunging the temple back into the silvery darkness of the moonlight. The warm golden pocket of their community dissolved, and they were once again four individuals, ready to return to their separate homes and families. The gathering of souls was over. Raghuvir stepped out of the temple and began his solitary walk home. The village was just as silent as when he had left it, but now it felt different to him. He felt calmer, more centered. The conversations with his fellow farmers had eased his mind, the stories had enriched his spirit, and the shared prayer had filled him with a quiet peace. He carried the warmth of the community with him as he walked through the cool night air. His footsteps were light on the path, his heart unburdened. The world around him seemed to welcome him back, the moonlight a gentle guide leading him to his door. As he reached his hut, he slipped back inside as quietly as he had left. The soft sounds of his family's breathing greeted him like a familiar, comforting melody. He returned to his charpai, the woven ropes creaking a soft welcome. Lying down, he felt a profound sense of contentment. The watch had served its purpose. It had been a necessary and beautiful pause, a time of connection and reflection. Now, he was ready for the final act of the night. He closed his eyes, not with the heavy weariness of the evening, but with a peaceful readiness for the gentle embrace of his second sleep. Raghavir returned to his hut, anxiety soothed by the shared communion. As he slipped into the darkness of his home, he felt a profound sense of inner peace. The gentle breathing of his family was the anchor of his world. He stood for a moment, a silent guardian. In this simple space he felt a deep contentment. He savored the feeling of stillness, fully present. He felt grounded and grateful for the rhythms of his life. He was returning to rest with a renewed spirit, the night having provided a balm for his soul. Making his way back to his cot, Raghavir lay down with a soft sigh of contentment. The charpai greeted him like an old friend, its woven coir ropes creaking a gentle, familiar welcome. The surface felt cool against his skin, a pleasant sensation in the mild night air. His body instantly recognized its contours, sinking into the supportive embrace that he had known his entire life. He stretched his limbs, feeling the last vestiges of tension release from his muscles. The simple wooden frame and woven ropes represented a form of security, a humble throne where he could abdicate the responsibilities of the day and surrender once more to the kingdom of rest. He lay on his back, his hands resting on his stomach, and stared up into the impenetrable darkness above him. The thatched roof was a comforting presence, a shield against the vast open sky. Unlike the first sleep, which had been a heavy, dreamless plunge into oblivion, this approach to slumber was more conscious and gentle. He was aware of his surroundings, of the soft sounds of his sleeping family, of the feel of the thin blanket over his legs. This awareness, however, was not a distraction. It was part of the peaceful landscape of the moment, a soft backdrop to his slow drift back into sleep. His mind was quiet. The litany of daytime concerns, the state of the crops, the threat of pests, the need for rain, had been discussed, shared, and set aside at the temple. They were no longer buzzing in his head like trapped insects. The stories of the ancestors and the sacred words of the Bhajan had replaced them, leaving behind a sense of perspective and peace. He felt a quiet confidence that he would face the coming day with renewed strength and a clear head. This mental clarity was one of the greatest gifts of the segmented sleep pattern, a kind of mental reset that occurred in the heart of the night. The second sleep was not something he had to chase or force. It was the natural next step in a well-worn cycle. His body, having been awake for a productive and peaceful hour, was now ready to complete its nightly restoration. He closed his eyes, and the darkness behind his eyelids felt soft and inviting. It was not the void of the first sleep, but a gentler shade of black, one that seemed to hold the promise of dreams. He felt himself floating, unmoored from the physical world, ready to be carried away by the gentle currents of his second slumber. The descent into the second sleep was different from the first. It was not a sudden drop into unconsciousness, but a slow, graceful fade. Raghavir felt his consciousness thinning, becoming more porous. The solid reality of the hut, the sounds of breathing, the feel of the charpai beneath him, all began to soften and recede, as if he were slowly drifting away from a familiar shore. His thoughts, which had been clear and focused just moments before, started to lose their structure. They became fluid and associative, transforming into a gentle stream of disconnected images, colors, and feelings, the first whispers of the dream world. This second sleep was known to be a lighter, more dream-rich phase of the night. While the first sleep was primarily for the body's physical repair, this second half was often seen as a time for the mind's own journey. It was a period of mental consolidation, where the day's experiences were processed and memories were sorted. For Raghavir, it was often a time when solutions to problems appeared in symbolic form, or when the faces of his ancestors visited him in fleeting visions. He did not fear this world. He entered it with a sense of gentle curiosity, accepting whatever it might bring. His breathing settled into a new rhythm, still deep and regular, but somehow lighter than before. He was crossing the threshold between the conscious and the subconscious, a gateway that was now wide open. The boundary between his inner world and the outer world dissolved completely. He was no longer Raghuveer, the farmer in his hut. He was a traveler embarking on a nocturnal voyage, his mind the vessel and his dreams the uncharted sea. The tranquility he had cultivated during the wakeful watch served as his compass, ensuring his journey would be a peaceful one. Within minutes he was fully asleep again. But this was a different country of slumber. It was a landscape alive with the murmurs of his own mind, a place where logic gave way to poetry, and the impossible became real. The village, the fields, and his family were all left behind as he drifted deeper into this new realm. The second sleep had claimed him, promising a different kind of rest, one that would not only restore his body but also allow his spirit to roam free until the first light of dawn began to break through the darkness. In the depths of his second sleep, Raghuveer's mind began to paint its own tapestries. The world of dreams was a fluid and unpredictable place, a realm where the laws of the physical world no longer applied. He dreamt he was walking through his millet field, but the stalks were as tall as trees, their heads heavy with glowing pearls instead of grain. The moon, full and impossibly large, hung low in the sky, and he could reach out and touch its cool, smooth surface. The dream was not frightening, it was wondrous, filled with a sense of magic and abundance that filled his sleeping heart with joy. These dreams were often a reflection of his deepest hopes and fears, filtered through the strange lens of the subconscious. He saw his father, long passed away, standing at the edge of the field smiling at him with pride. His father did not speak, but Raghuveer understood the message of approval and encouragement. These dream encounters were precious to him, a way of maintaining his connection to those who had gone before. They felt less like memories and more like genuine visitations, brief moments of communion across the veil that separated the living from the dead, offering comfort and guidance. The dream shifted, as dreams do. Suddenly, he was a child again, running along the riverbank with his friends. He could feel the splash of the cool water on his legs and hear the sound of their carefree laughter echoing in the air. The sun was warm on his back, and the feeling of pure, uncomplicated happiness was so vivid, it felt real. This dream was a gift from his own past, a reminder of a time before the burdens of responsibility had settled on his shoulders. The second sleep often brought these nostalgic journeys, allowing his mind to revisit and re-experience moments of joy and innocence. Not all dreams were so idyllic. Sometimes they were filled with anxieties, a sudden storm threatening the harvest, or a pest devouring the leaves of his plants. Yet, even in these more troubling dreams, the peace he had cultivated during the watch seemed to act as an anchor. The nightmares never spun out of control. He often found a strange dream logic solution to the problem, or he would simply observe the scene with a sense of detachment, knowing on some deep level that it was not real. The second sleep was a safe space for his mind to process and release its worries, cleansing his psyche for the day ahead. As the dream-filled phase of his sleep subsided, Raghuveer settled into a long period of calm, deep rest. His mind, having roamed through its landscapes of memory and imagination, now grew quiet. The final hours of the night were characterized by a profound stillness, both inside the hut and in the village outside. This was the deepest, most silent part of the night, the dark hours just before the first hint of dawn. The moon had begun its descent towards the western horizon, and the sky was a blanket of impenetrable black, dotted with the cold, distant light of the stars. The world was holding its breath, waiting for the sun. Inside the hut, the family slept on. The cycle of 2 sleeps was a shared experience, even if the wakeful period was spent differently by each person. Parvati, too, would have woken for a time, perhaps to check on the children, say a quiet prayer, or simply enjoy the stillness before drifting back into her own second sleep. Now, the entire family was united in this final phase of rest, their energies synchronized with the rhythm of the night. Their collective breathing was a soft, steady pulse, the quiet heartbeat of the home as it gathered its strength for the coming day. This final period of rest was crucial. It was the long, steady coast after the active journeys of the first and second sleeps. It allowed the body and mind to integrate all the restorative work that had been done throughout the night. It was a time of deep cellular repair and profound mental peace. Raghuveer was completely lost to the world, his consciousness submerged in a state of pure being. He was not dreaming, not thinking, not feeling. He was simply resting, his entire system recharging in this final precious period of darkness and silence. This was the sleep that would carry him all the way to the morning. The night wore on, second by second, minute by minute. the earth continued its slow, inexorable turn towards the sun. Outside the hut, the first signs of a change were beginning to stir, though they were still imperceptible to human senses. The air grew a fraction cooler and the dew on the leaves and the ground grew heavier. A new day was waiting just beyond the horizon, but for now, the night held its dominion. In his small hut, Raghavir slept on, peaceful and unaware, gathering the final measure of rest before the first crow of the rooster would call him back to the world of light and labor. Raghuvir's story illustrates a sleep pattern that was once the norm for humanity. Historical research reveals that for millennia people experienced the night in two distinct phases. This segmented sleep was a natural response to light and darkness. Evidence suggests its prevalence from ancient Greece and Rome to medieval Europe, Africa, and the Americas. The activities during the watch shared a common theme of quiet productivity and reflection. This challenges our modern assumption that a single 8-hour block of sleep is the only natural way to rest. Our ancestors had a more intimate relationship with the night, finding in its quiet heart a unique space for community and self-reflection. Evidence for segmented sleep is woven into historical documents. Before the 19th century, references to a first and second sleep appear frequently in diaries, court records, medical texts, and literature. These mentions require no explanation, indicating it was a normal part of everyday life. Literary giants also reference this nightly rhythm. Even legal depositions casually use the first and second sleep as temporal markers. Personal letters offer an intimate glimpse into this lost world of sleep. People would write letters or reflect on the day's events. The volume and diversity of these sources paint a clear picture. The language of two sleeps was universal until the 19th century, signaling a profound shift in our relationship with night. The disappearance of the two-sleep pattern can be traced to the Industrial Revolution. The rise of factories created a new master, the clock. The factory system demanded a synchronized workforce. This new industrial time seeped into every aspect of life. Efficiency became the new virtue. Sleeping through the night became a sign of a disciplined individual. By the end of the 19th century, the pressure to conform to a single block of sleep was immense. The idea of segmented sleep began to be pathologized. Within a few generations, the collective memory of the two-sleep pattern was erased. The tyranny of the clock had successfully colonized the night. Alongside the Industrial Revolution, a powerful technological force was at play: the proliferation of cheap and effective artificial light. The 19th century saw the improvement of gaslighting and the invention of the electric light bulb. For the first time, humanity could effectively push back the darkness. The night became a frontier to be conquered and illuminated. This had a profound effect on our internal body clocks. Our circadian rhythms are naturally regulated by the cycle of light and dark. Bright light tricked our brains into thinking it was daytime, suppressing melatonin. This made it easier to stay up later, compressing the time for rest. The natural pattern of two sleeps was squeezed out of existence. The consolidated single block of sleep became a necessity. We have almost completely severed our connection to the natural cycle of darkness. Our modern sleep habits are a recent invention, shaped by the clock and the light bulb. Our journey with Raghuvir, from the sun-drenched fields of his 14th century village to the moonlit temple at midnight, has been more than a simple historical excursion. It has been an exploration into a forgotten world of rest, one set by nature, not by machines. For millennia, humanity slept in a way that was segmented and deeply connected to the natural cycles. Raghuvir's tale serves as a mirror, reflecting our complicated relationship with the night. We've forgotten the peace of true darkness and the potential of quiet interludes. Middle-of-the-night insomnia might be an echo of this ancient rhythm, a biological memory resurfacing. Raghuvir's story invites us to question our definitions of sleep and listen to the ancestral rhythms within us. His experience offers a valuable perspective, encouraging us to re-examine our sleep habits and consider our essential human needs. Raghuvir's story teaches us that rest is not merely the absence of activity. For Raghuvir, the night was dynamic. The watch that followed was an active state of being, a time for the rest of the soul. It was a time for the mind to process and the community to connect. This concept is absent from our modern lives. Raghuvir's life shows us stillness built into the night. It was a time for problem-solving, contemplation, and connection. Reframing our anxiety around nighttime awakenings, we might embrace the stillness. It's an invitation to experience a deeper form of rest. We can creatively adapt the wisdom of the watch to our contemporary context by reclaiming this interlude. Consciously create a space free from digital distractions and the pressure to be constantly productive. Find your own version of the watch by setting aside time before bed for reading or soft conversation. Prepare for natural nighttime awakenings with a book or journal, transforming anxiety into a peaceful ritual. Reclaim the communal aspect through deep conversations and supportive bonds. Create a modern watch by challenging the tyranny of the clock and cultivating darkness, silence, and stillness. Embrace the spirit of the wakeful interlude to bring peace and connection into our modern lives. The story of Raghuvir is a story about harmony. It depicts a life lived in sync with the natural rhythms of the planet. This external harmony was reflected in a profound internal harmony. Raghuvir's life illustrates a seamless integration of body, mind, and spirit. The wisdom of the two sleeps is the wisdom of seeing life as an integrated whole. By listening to the tale, we are invited to listen more closely to ourselves. The enduring wisdom is its profound respect for the body's innate intelligence. We too can cultivate this inner listening and trust our own rhythms. His story is a timeless reminder that living in harmony with our own nature is the true source of strength and contentment. Its legacy remains, a quiet whisper from our ancestors, encouraging us to seek balance and find our own way of living in greater harmony.